This video is brought to you in collaboration with wowhead.com. Hello everyone. Wowhead has been hard at work at data mine the next patch, and a sexy new model showed up. Wrathion will finally have his part to play in the future, so I thought that would be a good idea to sit down and cover a little bit of what we've seen on the PTR so far, as well as give some background information and talk about the future. Do keep in mind that spoilers are going to come. I'll give you a heads up as we enter the spoiler territory. For now, let's go way back in time and talk about that sweet, sweet dragon lore. As it was, Azeroth did not even always have dragons, but they did have proto-dragons, creatures that evolved from elements left behind when the keepers they sent the elemental lords to their elemental planes. These proto-dragons were a great help to Keeper Tyr in his battle against Galagrond, so much so that they decided to empower them and turn them into the dragon aspects. There was Alexstrasza, Ysera, Neltharion, Nosdormu and Malygos. They were the very first leaders of their individual flights, all of them having their own domains to guard. To keep the race going, more X and proto-dragons were evolved into dragons. Red, green, black, bronze and blue. These are the flights who would safeguard the lands against threats from without and from within. Threats like the old gods, who were buried in their prisons deep beneath the world. They longed for their freedom, to return to the days where they ruled the planets. The days of the Black Empire. With Neltharion being the Earth Warder, giving charge over the mountains and deep caverns of the earth. He embodied the strength of the world, but this connection to it also made him incredibly vulnerable to the corruption of the old gods. They whispered to him for millennia. Ever so subtle, they pitched him against his fellow dragons, until his madness was finally revealed over 10,000 years ago. It was during the War of the Ancients, where he convinced his fellow aspects to place a portion of their power into a device of his own making, which was called the Dragon Soul. It was planned to be used against the invading Legion forces, but instead Neltharion, or Deathwing as the world would soon get to know him as, he turned against them. He used the device not only against the demons, but also the resistance fighting this invasion, as well as his fellow dragons. Although he would eventually be defeated, this was a mighty blow against all dragonkind, and it would take years to recover. Years that allowed the old gods to lay seeds for future plans. Seeds like the corruption of the Emerald Dream, which was Ysera's domain, a corruption known as the Emerald Nightmare. Now the madness of Deathwing, it went further than just the aspect himself. His entire flight was under the sway of the old gods, and they would cause a whole bunch of problems to the worlds. This was not exactly what the Keepers had in mind when they granted him these powers. This was not what an Earth Warder was meant to be. Fast forward millennia into the future, to the time period of around the Cataclysm. Deathwing, in order of the old gods, still listening to the whispers, he was going around trying to bring about the Hour of Twilight. The moment in which the old gods would break out of their prisons and rule the worlds once more. He would find his demise at the end, by the hands of Goel and the other aspects. They turned the Dragon Soul against the corrupted aspects.
The champions who fought at our side assured the survival of our world. But now, we must see it with mortal eyes. We dragon aspects have fulfilled our great purpose, and our ancient power is expended.
From this, it sounds like it's the end of all dragons, like they fulfilled the Titan's wishes, and they now pass on the torch to the mortals of the world. Now, it's their duty to safeguard Azeroth, and there's a reason why this ending is my least favorite one. For multiple reasons. I'm a big fan of dragon lore, and taking care of Deathwing, that was never the ultimate purpose given to the dragons. They were meant to safeguard the world, and threats like the Legion, like the old gods, Nuzab for example, they're still out there. Then again, I also understand that they wanted to give it a bit of closure, so they took away a huge chunk of the aspect's powers, which is fine. You know, mortals, they've proven themselves to be defenders as well. That's not the major issue. But next to that, they also made them mortal, and on top of that, the dragons can also no longer reproduce. This was first mentioned on Twitter and later confirmed in the questline. The race of dragons, these mythical creatures that have been around for millennia now, they would eventually die out. Jesse Cox, who's another big lore nerd, he had the opportunity to interview Ian Hastakostas, and 2 years ago, they talked about the future of dragons. They talked about what this choice at the end of the Cataclysm actually meant for their future.
Are we going to have more dragon story in the future?
I think that seems very likely. I mean, certainly when you're level 112, as we learned in the Chromie scenario, dragons are going to be very important. But part of the storytelling and the world building, it's always this trick of balancing, the story we're telling now without completely closing off opportunities in the future. And to some extent, they're literary devices, right? Yes, you killed Illidan back in Black Temple. He seemingly was defeated. But as we're planning out the framework of the Legion expansion, man, wouldn't it be awesome to have Illidan around? And wouldn't there be so many opportunities? Well, what if we tweak a couple of things? What if there's a little bit of retconning going on, but what if we open this door to let us tell an awesome new story? And I think similarly, it was never our intent back in Cataclysm to close the door forever on, okay, dragons are gone. There's never going to be any in the future when we can't do anything again. No more dragon raid bosses, etc. But yes, we know there's rebuilding to do there if we want to ever focus the storyline around them in the same ways.
We know there's rebuilding to do if we ever want to focus the storyline around the dragons in the same way. So in essence, if they feel like bringing back dragons into the story, if they feel like dragons should reproduce, they have some to explain, but there is a way to make it so. Now keep that in mind for when we reach the end of this video. During the Cataclysm, we did indeed battle with Deathwing, while some members of the Red Dragon Flight, they also thought it would be really nice if we actually had a proper Earth Warden. A black dragon that wasn't corrupted by the old gods. They had no knowledge of Ebonhorn hiding out in High Mountain. He too is an uncorrupted black dragon, only he was cleansed all the way back during the War of the Ancients, and has been hiding out with the Taurens ever since. They had no idea that he existed, so instead they performed their own experiments, trying to figure out some way of creating the first uncorrupted black dragon in millennia. By gathering wild black dragon eggs, wild black dragon corpses, and Nyxandra's eggs, we combine those with an ancient Titan device, let it scan and excise anomalies, remove the corruption, and just like that, we have ourselves an uncorrupted egg. Despite Deathwing trying to obtain it, the egg remains safe long enough for Wrathion to hatch. He's not exactly happy with what the Red Dragons have done, but he's more concerned about his own corrupted flight. Rogue heroes are then recruited to help him exterminate each and every one of them, including his own father. After all is said and done, to his knowledge, all of them are dead, but that's not exactly true. Disregarding Ebonhorn, who was added to the story later on. Even back then, we already knew about Sabellion, a black dragon stationed in Outland. Regardless of that, Wrathion believes that his mission is completed, and he then travels to a whole new land previously hidden by mist, the lands of Pandaria. Now, despite stepping away from the Red Dragons and refusing to follow their orders, our mission, it was still a success. We did indeed create an uncorrupted guardian of the world, and that's exactly what Wrathion is about. A vision has shown him that the Legion is coming for another invasion, and he believes that a divided Azeroth, it will never stand a chance against them. That's why, with the promise of beautiful legendary items, he recruited heroes from both factions to follow him around, help him achieve his ultimate goal, one faction to wipe out the other. Sadly though, that never played out. His carefully laid plans were foiled by Wrathion, who decided, after we kicked Garrosh out of the Mantle of Warchief and placed him on trial, he decided to not dismantle the Horde, but instead step away. Wrathion never understood that the Alliance and Horde, they're stronger because of one another. They had stood shoulder to shoulder against massive threats like the Old Gods and the Legion before. By working together, they're a force that even the Old Gods are wary about. Sure enough, time and time again, they do fight with one another, but together, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, they're incredibly powerful force. Lessons our young Black Dragon friend seems too stubborn to learn. Now while on Pandaria, a close friendship with Prince Anduin actually developed. During Garrosh's trial, Wrathion and Anduin, they confirmed that they see each other as friends, but not even that bond would stand in the way of Wrathion and his goals. The Legion was still coming after all. He did not believe Azeroth was strong enough, but perhaps if they added another horde, another army to stand with them, perhaps they would have a chance. The plan was created. With the aid of the Bronze Dragon Kairos Dormu, Garrosh, he escaped and was transported to a whole new reality, one where he would form the Horde to have it stand with our Azeroth against the Legion. But Garrosh, he wasn't down with being used like that. Instead, he murdered Kairos, yet formed his Iron Horde all the same. Not for the defense of Azeroth, but to actually conquer it. The Dark Portal turned red, and heroes ventured forth to take care of this threat. Even Wrathion made his way to this alternate Draenor, as we learn from the log found at Admiral Taylor's garrison. If you were quick enough, you could even find a glimpse of the whelp flying away from Khadgar's tower. You have to wonder what exactly they had planned with Wrathion during this expansion, but like so much else, it seems to have been cut out. Then Legion Alpha rolled around, and again the Black Dragon Prince was there, in High Mountain, right there, explaining what he was trying to accomplish by setting Garrosh free. By the time Legion released, our prince was replaced by Ebonhorn, another uncorrupted Black Dragon, except uncorrupted in a completely different way. Whereas Wrathion was a bit of an experiment with an ancient Titan device, Ebonhorn's cleansing that came with the use of one of the pillars of creation, the Hammer of Kaskarov. Again, we were forced to wait and wonder what had happened to Wrathion. Where was he now? What was he up to? A cameo in the Chromie scenario of some alternate timeline. It just wasn't enough. So, knowing all of the background information, what exactly does that have to do with Battle for Azeroth? Keep in mind that this is the point in time where we're gonna go into the current lore, as well as spoilers for the next patch. If you don't want any spoilers, then thank you very much for watching so far. It should be obvious by now, but Wrathion is a character that is liked by many, and so his return has been desired for quite some time now. One of the first hints about his actions in Battle for Azeroth, that comes from an island expedition quest. You know, those quests people don't really pay attention to, yet they drop little lore bombs, like Helya is apparently back in Helheim. Yet those quests, one of them starts with an unscarred black skill. An utterly pristine black dragon skill, taken from the dragons you recently encountered. The Black Dragonflight was completely decimated following Deathwing's demise and Wrathion's rise to power. Yet the size indicates a younger dragon. There's one person, one dragon that you know will want to hear of this. But where is Wrathion? You surmise he may be someplace familiar, fortified and abandoned. Outside the entrance to the Blackwing Descent, we find one of his agents who accepts the skill as they were told to expect us. As compensation for our efforts, we get a little bit of Azerite as well as information. Have you heard of the Dragon Isles? Few have, and fewer have been there. We've not found others of the Master's kin to be forthcoming in information. Should you uncover anything further in your travels, we'll be awaiting a visit with payment in kind. Wrathion is apparently on the hunt for the Dragon Isles, and it wouldn't be surprising if you've never heard of them before. A lot of what we know about them comes from a book called World of Warcraft Diary, written by Jonathan Stats. This book gives a really cool inside look at the development behind the game. Some of the concepts that never really made it in, like the Dragon Isles. Set to be intended as a level 65 to 70 raid, located north of Lordaeron and west of Quel'Thalas. Before it was cut. They were intended to be temples to the old gods, with Alexstrasza planned to be located there. That's pretty much all we know about the Dragon Isles, an old concept now being revived. It's not certain if that old idea, like having temples to the old gods there, if that's actually a thing, but considering what we're going to find out in the next patch, it's not crazy to think so. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So here we have a hint of Wrathion being on a quest, yet our adventures continued all the same. We filled up our Heart of Azeroth in an attempt to heal the world. Mother, she did some calculating, and despite our best efforts, Azeroth isn't doing too well.
World Unit, Azeroth, cascading toward terminal failure. Evaluation. Possible to reverse condition by amplifying Heart of Azeroth.
Amplify it, you say? How?
Infuse Heart with magical essences capable of nurturing World Unit, Azeroth. Example. Energies once granted by Titan Watchers to primitive draconic lifeforms.
The dragon aspects? But they gave up their powers to save the world from Deathwing!
Readings indicate other compatible essences coalescing in numerous forms and locations. Collection of these essences necessary to fortify Heart of Azeroth and its wielder.
We go out to get essences of the different dragonflights to empower the heart and gain access to an ability called the Crucible of Flame. I won't be going into too many details surrounding this questline as I still need to finish it myself. The main point and connection to Wrathion that comes from the first essence we collect, which takes us back to High Mountain and Neltharion's lair. Ebonhorn, that uncorrupted black dragon, he joins us on this quest, even decides to stay with us in the Chamber of Hearts. We've seen him struggle against the whispers of the old gods before, and now, with N'Zoth released from his prison, not even the Chamber of Heart is safe.
Champion, we've got a problem! Ebonhorn, he...
Old god contamination detected. Initiating sanitization protocol.
No! Don't sanitize! Champion, you've got to get back to the chamber right now!
The voices, I can't...
Hold it together, Ebonhorn. Don't give in to them.
Champion, I know someone who might be able to help.
And that someone is, of course, Wrathion. To prevent the dark forces that corrupted the Black Dragonflight once before, we're going to need his help. He's apparently been studying the old gods in order to better combat their insidious power. Not an easy guy to track down though. First up is checking in with his associates in Pandaria at the Tavern of the Mists.
Hurry, champion. Find Wrathion. He may be Ebonhorn's only hope.
At the tavern, we see that Azeroth likes to keep an eye on things. Lurking observers we remove before talking to the Black Talon bodyguards. They were told to stay here and wait for us, said that his brother would need his help eventually. Quite interesting that Wrathion now sees Ebonhorn as his brother, while in a previous expansion, the rest of his Dragonflight, they were nothing more to him but targets to take out. Is he aware that Ebonhorn is not corrupted, and therefore on the same level as he is? Perhaps. Now the message left by Wrathion that comes in the form of a torn journal page, number 7 to be precise. Wrathion has gone to Dire Maul to delve into the knowledge of the Chandelier. References to the old gods are vague and oblique, existing only as archaeological footnotes from a time before the Sundering. The Chandelier, adept in the arcane arts as they were, could not completely unravel the intricacies of the Black Empire's dark magic. Yet a few of them did dabble in the void, and the lessons they learned grants me hope that N'Zoth's own power can be wielded against him. We do have an empty blade left behind by Xal'atath, brought over by Horde members to the Banshee Queen, who then told Naphanos to guide us to Nashatar. Will the ultimate play be to set N'Zoth free, to then completely remove him? Who knows? Even in its abandoned state, the library meticulous organization truly impressed me. If only more of it had remained intact. Such an extensive loss of wisdom is lamentable. The Chandelier told ceaselessly to collect the librams that lined their bookshelves, only for the lion's share of it to be consumed by the flames of war. But such is the nature of warfare, is it not? Seldom does it accomplish the intentions of its architects, and never without leaving immeasurable devastation in its wake. Especially when the Horde and the Alliance are the forces in conflict. Can one ultimately say that victory is worth the price that must be paid to achieve it? Perhaps it is, in some cases, but the verdict is not as easily reached as I once thought. Our little prince is growing up, it seems, shaping and forming his thoughts about the world. Obviously, the Black Prince, he isn't here. Not even his bodyguards know where to find him, but they do point us to Blackrock Mountain all the same. There's a terrace carved into its slopes, where Nefarian once made his lair. Wrathion has been monitoring the place for a long time now, and even if he himself isn't there, we might find someone who knows where to look. At the spot where we turned in that island expedition quest, we now find the Black Talon Watcher being drained of all knowledge by N'Zoth's minions, forcing their way into his mind to find out what he knows. The minions go down easy enough, and another journal page was left with his guards, as well as instructions to go to Karazhan next. Torn journal page number 16 makes mention of his time in Pandaria, hanging out with the Lore Walkers and the Shadowpan. Learn more of the interactions with the Shah. This dark force originates from the essence of the old god Y'Shaarj. The underlying principles of their techniques it could prove effective in resisting the whispers of the old gods. I must admit, I felt a certain kinship with the Shadowpan that I did not anticipate. The Pandaren do not maintain a standing army, and so the Shadowpan serve as their sole defense against both the Mentat and the Shah. Though they have trained themselves to seal away their emotions, there's an air of solitude about them that I recognize all too well. It is no easy task to stand alone against the darkness, so that others may bask in the light. But someone must always make that stand, and they can never allow themselves to falter. That's how Wrathion sees himself, I guess. The man working from the shadows, all alone, trying to protect the world. As instructed, we fly out to Karazhan, but N'Zoth's minions, they've learned much from this interrogated watcher, and are on the same trail as we are. Once we arrive, we find a slain Black Talon lookout, who took out several of the sleepless operatives at the cost of his own life. On his body, we find page number 25. few mysteries intrigue me more than the lost knowledge and technology left behind by the Titans. I know for certain that the Forge of Origination is the key to dealing the old gods the ultimate defeat, though I've not been able to discern the exact manner in which it's meant to be used. This Forge of Origination, it was placed in the area now known as Uldum by the Titan Keepers, all the way back in the days of bringing order to the planets. Not only would it help the Titan spirit grow, it also worked as a fail-safe protocol. In case that the world would be too corrupted, this device could be activated to eradicate all life in the world. It's pretty much a reset button in case the old gods' hold over the world became too strong. But that's not the only way that this device can be used. In the days of Lei Shen, the Thunder King, we saw that Lei Shen, he had his own vision on how to fulfill the Keeper's plans, how to lead the world as Keeper Ra he'd fallen to despair. Lei Shen set his eyes on claiming the Forge of Origination, but the Tolver, who were left behind by Keeper Ra to keep an eye on the place, they were outraged when they heard what Lei Shen had done to their keeper. They would never join his side, so the Thunder King, he made ready to take it by force. Although the Tolver, they did not have the numbers to even remotely stand a chance, they did have the Forge. They configured it to scour only the nearby land and everything in it. Their enemies, as well as their allies outside in the lands of Uldum, all of them felt the energies of unmaking. What once was a lush jungle, a paradise as they described it, it now turned into the desert as we know it as today. That's how Lei Shen died for the first time. So this forge, it can pretty much purge the surface of the world, and it can be configured to do a much more local attack. Then Elgalan during Wrath the Lich King, he was planning to use it, but we slapped some sense into him and he gave us a different reply code, one that deactivated the purge. Deathwing then tried to claim the forge for his plans during the Cataclysm, plans that we prevented, and now his son Wrathion, he's wondering if we could perhaps use this device to deal the old gods their ultimate defeats. It is strange to think on how these events predate my own hatching. While I plumb the depths of forgotten lore from eons past, others have lived through crises I will only ever know from historical accounts. There must be someone on Azeroth who possesses the understanding I require, and perhaps my next course of action should be to seek them out. A pity the former aspects are so reluctant to trust me. Even after all my research, their familiarity with the Titan's handiwork, it surely eclipses my own. But given the troubled history of my Dragonflight, of Deathwing, Onyxia, Nefarian, and myself, I cannot say I blame them either. Perhaps these actions are going to help him reconnect with the other Dragonflights, pool their knowledge together, and figure out a solution. Inside the catacombs of Karazhan, Wrathion then continued his research, and now the agents of N'Zoth, they're crawling all over the place, looking for the prince. With any luck, we can find it before they do. We investigate clues that are left behind, until we stumble upon torn journal page 58. It speaks of his time inside the tower, the insight he gained from the library, which allowed him to reach a significant milestone. I've concocted a tonic that, when invited, will cleanse a minor amount of the old gods' corruption and silence their whispers. Such is merely the first step on the path of defeating them once and for all, but a warrant celebration nonetheless. Though I knew that there were valuable lessons to learn in Karazhan, I did not anticipate that some of them would emerge from my conversations with Medivh's lingering spirits. He recounted his struggles under Sargeras' influence, as the Dark Titan twisted its soul from within, and I was left to wonder if similar thoughts plagued Neltharion, as he descended in madness himself. But Medivh also spoke of his spirit's return to the mortal realm, and how it guided Azeroth's champions in their fights against the very force that once corrupted him. He said something on which I ruminate even now. I can never change the actions of my past, he told me, but I can forge a new legacy to leave behind. A new legacy. In the end, perhaps that is what I am truly after. A way to make amends for my father's failings, as well as my own. A legacy worthy of the Black Dragonflight's original sacred charge, the defense of Azeroth, the end of the old gods. I do hope these pages have proven to be of use to you, champion. I would hate to think my agents wasted their time delivering them to you as instructed. Rest assured that when the time is right, you will have my aid in the fight against N'Zoth, in the true battle for Azeroth. Oh, and one last request. Burn this journal. It is time that my actions speak for me. I really love these little lore tidbits and little lore bombs that they're dropping. Medivh's history, in short, he's a child born from Aegwynn who was corrupted by the spirit of Sargeras after defeating his avatar in ages past. The powers of the Guardian, as well as Sargeras' spirits, they were passed on to young Medivh, which would lead to a corrupted Guardian of Azeroth. One that opened the Dark Portal and brought in the Orcish Horde for their very first invasion, to weaken it and make it ready for another invasion from the Legion. Medivh's corruption was eventually discovered. He was killed, to then be brought back by his mother and recruit the world to stand against this Legion. For a long time, people wondered what happened to Medivh at the end of Warcraft 3. His mother's magics had brought him back to the physical world for this specific task, and then his powers were waning. He felt at his time on the physical plane that was coming to an end. The task of safeguarding Azeroth, it now fell to its inhabitants, just as he had intended. Yet, his spirit is apparently tied to the Tower of Karazhan. We saw it briefly pop up during Legion, and now once more it's been confirmed that his spirit wanders the tower. One does have to wonder if Khadgar is now having conversations with Medivh as well. But either way, Wrathion, he's looking for a better legacy to leave behind, a better legacy for his flight. An end to the old gods, the defense of Azeroth. He will stand with us in our battle against N'Zoth, in our quest of saving the world, not just from the wounds inflicted by Sargeras, but also its corruption.
Champion, we need you back in the chamber at once. Ebonhorn's almost gone. Mother's opened a way gate to get you back here. Hurry.
So, sadly, no Wrathion to be found here. Yet we do still need aid for Ebonhorn. Luckily, the prince has followed this as well. After slaying Zokor, the Compelling, we find a potion of mental clarity and a hastily scrawled note. It lets us know that this potion is meant for Ebonhorn to cleanse his mind of N'Zoth's influence.
The whispers are silent. Wrathion crafted this potion? So you were able to find him?
No, he eluded both N'Zoth's minions and our friend. But it seems he has found a way to resist the influence of the old gods.
Wrathion's studies will not go to waste, as Mother absorbs the knowledge into her database, and they'll use what they can to reinforce the chamber's defenses. That's where the PTR quest leaves us for the moment, but man oh man, did we learn a lot of interesting lore tidbits, not just surrounding Wrathion, but just the world in general. We can be pretty certain that Wrathion is going to show up in this expansion. No more teasing or cutting out storylines, as he's got a full-blown new model, which made the people of the internet fall for him all over again. Wrathion is indeed growing up, and so are his ideas when it comes to the future of the world. His motivation, it has always been to try safeguarding the planet. When we experimented, we wanted to make a true black dragon, a true guardian of the world, one that was uncorrupted by the old gods, and that's what we got. He does not get corrupted or influenced on his mission, which also means that his allegiances, they're not with the factions of the world. If you ask the question, can we trust him? Can we trust him to be there for us? Then the answer would be no. Even Anduin Wrynn, someone that he's very close to and he considers to be a friend, he was pushed to the side when he stood in the way of Wrathion's plans. It's Azeroth that has his allegiance, and he will do everything he can, everything that needs to happen to safeguard our future. That of course does not mean that he's perfect. The plans that he made up in the past, having one of the factions take over the other, use Garrosh to form the Iron Horde, yeah, those plans they kinda backfired, but his draconic heart was in the right place. I can't wait to party with Wrathion again, and perhaps even visit these Dragon Isles, learn knowledge that will aid us in the battle against N'Zoth. He does mention old gods several times, plural, which makes me wonder if Kafun and Yogg-Saron, if they're still a massive threat to the world. Is that perhaps what N'Zoth is after? Freeing his brothers? Or is he going to be satisfied with corrupting the world on his own? Is Wrathion perhaps searching for a way to restore the Dragonflights? Ian Hastakostas, he did mention that they had to do some rebuilding to bridge that gap again, and now we're infusing the heart of Azeroth with powers from the different flights. We've also seen void-infused dragons already pop up, trying to convert more of their kind to fall to the voids. Xal'atath is still walking around somewhere. Can you imagine Xal'atath and Wrathion in the same room together? The boy king, he serves at the master's table. 3 lies he will offer you. Does Wrathion perhaps know more about Anduin than we do? Will he be the clarification and perhaps ultimate salvation that we're looking for? I honestly can't wait to see this unfold, but by all means, let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments down below. The future is still very much unwritten, which has me very excited. But for now, thank you very much for watching everyone. If you're looking for more details on all the things that we talked about today, then check out the Later Wild article in the description down below. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!